Alright, you're ready to rock. You're live.
We're live.
Margaux, your water bottle matches your shirt. Congrats.
You see the little thing on the right hand side where it says one person?
That's how many people are watching you.
Yeah, we're gonna wait for that thing to jump up a little bit.
Oh, that's a fresh name right there.
Johnny.
Fresh.
That is.
Hey, hey, buddy!
Hammock, I really enjoyed your little political cartoon you posted the other day about the onion. It was fantastic. Very good. What do we want? Free stuff? Who's gonna get it to us? Bernie Sanders? What do we not understand economics? Yeah, we just wait for a couple. Be quiet back there, Paula. No dropping weights. You gotta make every set, okay? I'm Glenn. Very cool. We're having a very quiet conversation. What time is it? That's good. All right, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of San Diego Athletics Live. I'm Justin Fields, and you will notice to my left today, I am not with Brian Anders. I'm here with the lovely Margaux Preston. Yes, from Food is RX. She is our local dietitian here at San Diego Athletics. And today we're going to be talking about nutrition and everything we should be intaking and eating and all that fun stuff. Or not eating. Fantastic. So, most basic, what should I eat, Margaux?
It's a complicated question. When you ask that, what do you mean?
Like, so the basis of foods, like, for most people know that it's three things, right? It's carbohydrates, it's fat, and it's proteins, right? So should I be eating a ton of protein if I want to lose weight? If I'm trying to gain weight, should I be taking in a bunch of carbohydrates? I'm going to give pretty bold, just very rounded questions. Just try to simplify as much as possible.
Sure. Protein, carbohydrates, and fats are our macronutrients, and you want to have a good balance. A general guideline to start, if you really want to try to watch your macronutrients, is to have about 65% of your calorie intake from carbs. So you can think about like 2/3 of your plate, a little bit more than that, from carb.
And what exactly is a carb?
So we were actually just talking about
Right.
this. This would be things like fruits. Vegetables do contain carb, but not a lot. Particularly potatoes would be a good example of a higher carb food, or corn. But generally breads would be a good source of carbohydrate, pastas, fruit juices, those types of foods are sources of carbohydrate.
So I noticed you use the term macronutrition. Now,
Yes.
where does that exactly derive from? Where do we get that term from?
Macronutrient? The term?
Yeah, I mean, like, what exactly is a macronutrient? For someone that's never heard of that before, just...
It's just a larger form of a nutrient. There's micronutrients, macronutrients. Micro would be things like vitamins and minerals.
Okay.
Macro just being, larger source of nutrients.
Cool.
So 4 calories per gram for carbohydrate, but that's getting into probably more detail than we're
Yeah,
into
we're going to
there.
stay away from as much math as we can today.
Yeah. So protein, looking at about 20 to 30% of your calories from protein, and those would be sources like your beef, chicken, poultry, those types of foods, or plant-based, which I'm a big fan of and think that people should try to
We'll definitely talk about that.
aim towards including more plant-based proteins. And then your fat would be things like olive oil, the fat present in meats, or dairy products, nuts, seeds, those provide fat. And those can, again, range depending on how you adjust your percentages from, about 20% of your calories. If you're not a calorie counter, which I'm not a big proponent of counting calories for weight management, just because I think people really get too honed in on how many calories, how many macronutrients, how many grams of protein do I have, and it just gets really, really
Almost
stressful.
excessive, yeah.
I usually encourage people to look more at their plates and see, what does my plate look like? And the big thing to first start out with, especially if you want to lose weight, is filling half of your plate full of lots of vegetables.
Okay.
So that could be a mix of like frozen veggies, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots. Green leafy vegetables are an awesome powerhouse of nutrients. And then having about a quarter of your plate being a good solid source of protein, and then having some carbohydrate on there. If you're an athlete, you're probably going to want to, or doing CrossFit, that kind of thing, may want to increase your carb portions a little bit more. But in general, again, the other side of your plate being protein and carb.
Cool. So a question when people find out that I'm in the fitness industry, I get all the time. If I'm at a party, they say, well, how do I get more fit? So I don't know if you've ever had this question, but like, how can I improve my nutrition? Just very general off the bat. Everyone just kind of what can they do to try to improve upon?
Sure. First thing I'd say is look at your alcohol intake. I think a lot of people don't even look at their beverages, and alcohol typically can be a source of a lot of just calories that are not providing any nutritional benefit. So outside of looking at alcohol, I would say to choose lean sources of protein. So if you're choosing beef, try to pick the cuts of meat that are leaner, like a loin or a round tend to be a little bit leaner.
And a lot of the proteins that you go to the store actually show like the
Yes.
percentage, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you look at like your cuts of meat, it generally will tell you the percent fat. Like when you're looking at ground beef, it'll say 80-20, which is a very high fat. You want to look for 90-10 or leaner than that. In terms of just food in general, if it comes in a package, it's generally more processed, and you want to stick away from that because there's sodium and a lot of different other ingredients added to those foods that are not good for your body. So getting foods that come straight off the farm, like the piece of meat just straight cut, or the vegetables either frozen with nothing added to them or fresh, is really best.
So should we be looking more towards those like organic type of?
Organic doesn't necessarily mean healthier, it's good. It's better for the environment, and also doesn't contain a lot of chemicals or antibiotics in meats and produce. There's a website called EWG, and they do, it's called Environmental Working Group, and they have a great list of the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. Those are the items that have the most amount of pesticides or the least amount of pesticides on them when they get to the consumer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you mentioned alcohol being a big pitfall for people with nutrition. Are there any other mistakes people are making as far as the nutrition goes? As just overall?
Yeah, I think generally people are tending to lean very, very heavily on protein, at least in the CrossFit environment. I see a lot of that. So, protein is really important for building muscles, but if you don't have enough carbohydrate intake, like I said about that 65% of your calories, the protein that you do eat won't necessarily all be used to build muscle like you think it is. It's actually getting used at a certain point for maintaining your weight and being used for calories. So trying to balance, again, finding a balance of protein to carbohydrate is really important. It's not just all protein for muscle building.
And then how can we figure that out if we do have that balance? I mean, how do I know if I'm getting enough nutrition from one component over another?
Again, I think using an app, something like Spark People or MyFitnessPal, when you start tracking your food in there, it'll actually show you what your percentages are on an app like that. If you have no idea how much protein's in something, or it'll actually kind of lay it out for you and tell you how you're doing with your percentages. So that's a way to know it first. And then performance-wise, if you're not getting enough protein or not getting enough calories, generally your performance will suffer. If you're doing back squats or you're doing any kind of weight training and you're dropping weight and you can't keep up with it, one potential cause could be that your nutrition is not adequate.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize, I mean, everyone wants the easy answer, the quick fix, like when they come to you. So a lot of effort needs to be put into these things.
Absolutely.
Whether it's, tracking your calories, like you said, or working with a dietitian. A couple things we hear all the time is, I'm not hungry, should I eat? Is that something you hear?
Generally, I would say if you're not hungry, that's your body telling you that you don't need to eat.
Okay.
Unless you're trying to gain weight or you have really, really aggressive performance goals, I would say in general that's a sign that your body is full. That's why we have that hunger and satiety mechanisms to regulate our body weight. Your body's telling you that you have what you need.
What about a common one, I don't have time to eat?
Well, one way to get around that is to do meal planning. Pick a day of the week that you can either plan meals and prep food so that you could have things available and healthy in your refrigerator ready to go for the week. The other option is, again, using an application to look up foods that are healthy at restaurants that might be around you. Chipotle is a great place that I'll tell a lot of clients to go to because they have a lot of very minimally processed foods, and you can really customize and build your meal to be what you want.
Is the extra guacamole worth it too? Yeah.
It's delicious.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you can make that fit in. Any food can fit. That's usually my kind of motto, is that no matter what you like to eat, you can always make it fit.
If you had one tip for people for healthy eating, what would that be?
Portion control.
Portion control. So do we need to basically stuff our faces all the time like it's Thanksgiving?
No. Absolutely.
Cut ourselves off when we're full?
Eat slowly. It takes about 20 minutes to realize that you're actually full. There's a whole bunch of chemical and physical changes that happen in your body when you eat, and it takes about 20 minutes for your body to recognize that you've eaten enough.
How important is water?
Extremely.
Yeah. So should I be downing a bunch of water as I'm eating as well?
Just drinking throughout the day. I have my water bottle here. I didn't even bring it as a prop or anything. I just always have it with me. Always drinking. Hydration is really important. The mechanism between thirst and hunger are almost identical in your brain. So a lot of times people will confuse being hungry when they're actually thirsty. So
is there any signs that we have that if we're underhydrated?
Looking at your urine is a really good indicator. So if your urine is any darker than, say, lemonade, that's a good sign that you might need to drink more fluids. Keep in mind, if you take a multivitamin and you are checking your urine at that time, it can actually make your urine a little darker from some of the vitamins. So maybe later in the day might be a better indicator of your hydration.
We were talking about it because I'm taking a carb supplement. You suggested not to be doing that, so try to get my in. You suggested dried fruit as a healthy snack. Do you have any favorite healthy snacks?
Actually, apples and peanut butter is one of my favorite. A good source of protein and carbohydrate at the same time. And very satisfying because you've got the fat and the protein from peanut butter. And then you've got good fiber and a lot of good nutrients from the apple and carbohydrate. That's why we were talking about not using supplements for your carb, is getting it from food. Because when you take supplements, they are 100% processed, and a lot of times nutrients are removed from those, nutrients when they're put in the supplement, and you miss out on all the other vitamins and minerals that would have come with that whole food.
So should we all be taking some type of multi-supplement, some type of vitamin?
I think a general multivitamin can be healthy for most people. Again, each person has to look at what health conditions they may or may not have. But in general, one a day or Centrum are generally pretty healthy. And you don't ever want to take a vitamin that has over 100% of any sort of vitamin in it. There's a reason they set those levels. And in general, unless you have a deficiency, there is no need to take something that's 10,000 times the daily value of B12 or any kind of vitamin. You either end up urinating it out, or if it's a fat-soluble vitamin, it can actually cause dangerous levels in your body.
So when you're working with your athletes, do you prescribe other things as far as supplementation, like fish oil, B12?
Yeah, B12 generally not. Again, a regular multivitamin has 100% of what you need, plus any food that you're eating. You're not just taking vitamin, you're going to be eating other foods with it. Protein powders might be necessary depending on what your intake is or what your goals are, but in general, my first goal is always to get people to eat real food, because that is what our bodies are best able to handle. And it has a lot of different nutrients that go along with it. And there are risks with supplements. They're not regulated, and they can have a lot of harmful substances in them.
So financially, I know it's not cheap to eat healthy. Is there a way to get around that when you're working with a budget, not to just keep breaking your bank account?
I guess when I said no, that financially, I was thinking you were going to refer to supplements. Supplements are very expensive. In terms of eating healthy, again, we're very fortunate, at least here in Southern California, to have farmers markets. And those are a great place to get healthy food. Fresh vegetables can be really expensive during the winter. Frozen is just as healthy as fresh, as long as it's not covered in a sauce. So that's a great way to save money, and also convenience to have things that are frozen. And then, again, the more processed products you buy that are flavored or pre-cut or pre-ready to go, those cost more. So again, if you can buy things that are just the plain chicken breast and you season it yourself, you're going to save money.
Is bulk a good idea too? Go to Costco.
You can go to Costco, those types of things, absolutely.
Get a couple trays of eggs and everything like that.
Yep, absolutely.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, you recently wrote an article for us too, talking about the fantastic kombucha.
Yes.
Kombucha. Can you please elaborate a little bit more on this? Because I had never heard of it before. It basically just looked like sewage water.
Yeah. So it's a fermented tea that you use it's called a SCOBY, and it's a mixture of yeast and bacteria, and you place that in the tea and it ferments the tea. It makes essentially a probiotic drink, and probiotics are a very hot topic right now in nutrition. Essentially, they're just bacteria and yeast that are really helpful to your body in terms of digestion and your immune system.
So I hear bacteria, most people I think assimilate that with something that's negative,
It's
right?
negative, yes.
So we do need bacteria in our body?
Yes, absolutely. Your GI system is filled with trillions of bacteria. The bacteria in your gut actually weigh about 1 kilogram if you were to put them all together. So it's 2.2 pounds of bacteria, and it's 70% of our immune system. So you really need to nurture and foster the healthy bacteria in your gut to help prevent the bad bacteria from overgrowing. And they also help us make vitamins, like B vitamins are produced in our gut by our bacteria, vitamin K, short-chain fatty acids, all made by the bacteria in our gut. And if they're not in a healthy balance, your body can't make those vitamins for you.
And this drink actually can help with that balancing out?
So yes, the drink provides those probiotics, as well as other foods like cultured yogurts. So that would be things like, if you've seen Dan Active or Activia.
Okay, Activia. Jamie Lee Curtis, right?
Exactly,
yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so those contain probiotics, and then anything like fermented food with like sauerkraut, or tempeh, which is actually a plant-based protein, is fermented and it has good probiotics in it.
So you talk about plant-based protein, and you and I have had some interesting conversations about this. You personally do not eat any type of meat, correct?
I don't, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But
we won't go into that, but there's a term for that. What exactly?
So you can either be a vegetarian or a vegan. There's a lot of different variations of vegetarianism, and then there's vegan, which is no animal products at all.
So what are the benefits of going vegetarian? We actually have a friend within the gym, and his wife is looking towards, she has some cholesterol issues, and they're working towards actually, her doctor prescribed lowering her cholesterol by going to veganism.
Yes. So they're actually, when you eat 100% plant-based, there's no cholesterol at all in that type of a diet. Cholesterol only comes from animal-based products.
Right.
So right there, if she's trying to lower her cholesterol, she's not going to be consuming any from her diet. We actually make some cholesterol ourselves. So plant-based nutrition, whether it's vegetarian or veganism, is just trying to prevent chronic disease like diabetes, heart disease, cancers, and even Alzheimer's. There's a higher association with more animal-based products being consumed, a higher risk for those types of conditions. So,
am I not missing out though on some type of nutrition?
Very good points. Most people worry about protein, which is absolutely not a problem. You can get protein from, like I said, soy products, tempeh, tofu, beans, nuts, seeds, whole grains, vegetables. Broccoli is like 30% protein, which people don't usually realize. So it's really not an issue with getting enough protein. Another one is calcium, and calcium you can get from beans and again greens. Green leafy vegetables, as well as any fortified dairy milks like almond milk or soy milk or even cereals. And then B12 is again another issue that you cannot get B12 from plant-based products. So again, a daily multivitamin would have 100% of your B12 needs, or like a cereal, something like that, a breakfast cereal.
So you mentioned soy. I've always heard for males, too much soy is a bad thing, right? It increases estrogen, decreases testosterone, those are things that we need, especially as we age. Right?
Yeah, when they actually look at clinical studies on that, there is no evidence to support the drop in
Lies,
testosterone.
they're all lies.
They are lies, and I think it's again just people not having a good source of knowledge about what they're saying. They see something that looks similar and they think it's the same thing, and it's not. And actually there is evidence to support that soy is protective against prostate cancer. So soy has a lot of good benefits for males.
So as far as like a high-level athlete, you would send me an article, so I'll play the devil's advocate on this, but don't I have to intake a lot more? Because I'm not getting as much nutrients, right? Jumping just from vegetables and fruit.
So if you're worried, so say for example, if you're worried about quality of protein, again I mentioned tofu, tempeh, and seitan are all wonderful sources of protein, very high quality protein. You're not missing out on any of those essential amino acids, which is what people are worried about with a plant-based diet. They're all there. Again, you don't have to mix and match proteins like we once thought you did to get a complete protein. If you eat enough calories and you're eating a good variety of food, it's not an issue at all.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for stopping by and answering a ton of questions.
Yeah.
Very cool. How can people get a hold of you?
They can go to foodisrx.com, or you can go to CrossFit's website here, and my email address is on there. You can reach out with questions.
Very cool. Thanks, guys, for joining us for another episode of San Diego Athletics.
Thank you.